we will figure out an expression for the inverse hyperbolic sine function. So this is how we are going to do it. First, I'm just going to let this equal a variable, let's say t. Because this way, we can look at this equation and apply the original sinh function, namely the hyperbolic sine function. Do that both sides. And I'm going to put this down first. We have sinh of t, and that's going to be this, which the inverse and the original just cancel. So we just have x. And the beauty of this equation is now we can use the exponential definition for sinh. This is equal to e to the t minus e to the negative t over 2. And let's just go ahead and solve for t. To do so, multiply both sides by 2. And e to the negative t is the same as 1 over e to the t. And then look at this equation, we have this denominator. Let's multiply everybody by e to the t. So this times that is e to the t plus t, which is 2t. This times this is minus 1, and this times this, 2x times e to the t. And now, how do we continue though? Remember, our goal is to get t by itself because t is our expression for inverse hyperbolic sine function. And t is here and here. And notice, e to the t, and this right here is really just e to the t squared. So in fact, we have an equation, it's quadratic, but in terms of e to the t. So I'm going to move this to the other side and write this as e to the t and then squared. Moving this to the other side, that's negative 2x and then e to the t. And then we have the plus minus. We have the minus 1 and that is equal to 0. Now, quadratic equation, we can use the quadratic formula. A right here is equal to 1, and this right here is our b, which is negative 2x, and of course c is negative 1. So, when we use the quadratic formula, remember the input is e to the t, that will be equal to negative b, which is the negative 2x right over there, and then plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac. A is 1 and c is negative 1 all over 2 times a. And we'll just have to simplify this expression. So 2x plus or minus, that's 4x squared and that's plus 4 over 2. And then have a look. Both of them have 4 right here, so we can factor that out. So 4 times the rest, but the 4 is inside of the square root. Square root of 4 is 2, so we'll just write 2x plus or minus 2 square root of x squared plus 1 over 2. Let me put it here and let me put it here so that I can cancel them very nicely like this. So we get x plus or minus square root of x squared plus 1. But remember, this is what? That's e to the t. And here's the deal. The output of e to the t has to be positive. So in fact, we have to get rid of this negative because this thing is bigger than x since we're adding the 1 to the x squared instead of the square root. This is pretty much like x. Once we have the plus 1, that is bigger. So if x is negative, the right hand side will be. So if we get rid of negative, because we are adding the 1 to the x squared, so this part is bigger than x. If we had the subtraction, the result will be negative. So we have to get rid of that, that, and that. Now we have e to the t is equal to this. All we have to do is take the natural log both sides so that we can get rid of this, and we get the t by itself. T is the inverse hyperbolic sine function. And ladies and gentlemen, that is actually the same as ln of x plus square root of x squared plus 1. And that's it.